Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. The fallout from Liverpool's humiliation against Real Madrid continues with Jamie Carragher calling out Liverpool's world-class centre-back Virgil Van Dijk. And honestly, this shambles of Liverpool and the fallout from it is almost going to create more issues. And I tell you what, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I sound like Jim White. I'm here for it, Simon. I am. I'm here for it. I think it's refreshing. But I'm interested to see what Liverpool fans think and the wider fans think. You've got Jamie Carragher, who is what to Liverpool fans, and I don't mean that offensively. Is he a great? Is he a legend? Is he just good? I don't know. Obviously, one thing's with Liverpool calling out Virgil Van Dijk, who's arguably one of the best centre backs you've ever had, publicly after humiliation against Real Madrid. These comments are fascinating. And to be fair to Carragher, I mean, let me just read you the comments. He says, "What makes me laugh, and I'm not that bothered by it," which automatically means it didn't make him laugh and he is bothered about it. Virgil Van Dijk said, "I wouldn't get in that back four about 2 months ago. I think I'd take his place at the moment." I mean, this, look, Van Dijk should not have said that about Carragher anyway. I suppose that's the arrogance of the modern footballer. And should Carragher be saying that about the club that he supports and a major player there? I mean, that's a public fallout between an ex-player who is well received by Liverpool fans and your current best centre-back. This would be like Gary Neville calling out Harry Maguire, which would never have happened. It just wouldn't happen. Whatever you say about that, the ex-players of United tend to be pretty, backing of managers and players, especially if they're ex-teammates or they've got a British passport. That's, that's something as United fans we've been quite frustrated about, is about how they protect their former colleagues and players that they like. But Carragher in another, I mean, look, it's great for us to discuss, but I mean, that's a very public dispute from a very big mainstream ex-player pundit of Liverpool, calling out a current centre-back, basically saying he's crap and he'd play ahead of him at the moment. But what does that do? What does that do? I mean, is that professional? Is that constructive? Does that help Jurgen Klopp? Does it create an issue in the fan base? Does it, is there split loyalties now between Liverpool fans who like Carragher and Van Dijk? I think what it is, it just completely, if you take away that for a moment, it completely exposes the issues at Liverpool. When you've got that sort of a public humiliation going on from an ex-Liverpool player after a humiliating result like that, I mean, it can't get much lower for Liverpool. I mean, one thing Carragher does say, and I agree with, is that Jurgen Klopp, they've got a fantastic manager, but the players are under scrutiny. And look, when you're 2-0 up and you get beat 5-2 by Real Madrid at home at Anfield, you've got to have some fallout there. And I also, look, I don't know what I think about this. I really don't know what I think about it. I think that there is an element of pantomime here, and you don't want that. You want professionalism, because ultimately what will probably happen is Virgil van Dijk and Carragher will do an interview and shake hands or something like that. That will happen, and therefore it's just pure pantomime for clicks and views, isn't it? And we don't want football to become like that. We want football to be. We want footballers who are professionals and who are not bloody calling out ex-players and stuff like that. And we don't want ex-players really doing it as well, not for the clubs that they played for. But a lot of what Carragher said made sense. We've spoken about it ourselves. He basically was saying that defence has been exposed. The midfield hasn't got the energy it did have. And the front three don't press like Mane, Salah and Firmino used to. So the defensive support and stability and cover that was there for that back four is no longer there. And now they're having to defend more, and they're not as good at defending as actually they think they are. And that's basically what Carragher's saying. I mean, to be honest with you, and to be fair, obviously that's a very simplistic view. The defence actually isn't that good because the front three used to press and the midfield used to be energetic, so they protected the back four. Hold on a minute, that's football. That's what football is. No back four can stand against a well-organised team on their own. It's impossible. I've played the game. You've played the game. You can be a really good centre-back. Your job as a centre-back normally is you've got one striker, sometimes two. You've got to occupy them, and you've got to support your full-backs if they go forward, and you've got to run the line, and you've got to push, not literally as the linesman, you've got to hold the line, you've got to push the line backwards and forwards, offside, and almost dictate the press in many ways. That's your job as a centre-back. If midfielders are running off the midfield, you're in shit, because suddenly you're like, our job is to do all those things I've just said. There's midfield runners coming from everywhere. We can't pick them all up. And that's not your fault as a defence. You defend as a team. So the midfield not being as energetic doesn't mean that they're exposing the defence. It makes the defence's job really hard. It doesn't matter how good a centre-back you are, you could be prime Sergio Ramos. If you're playing in that Liverpool side, you're conceding goals. But what has gone on with Liverpool as well, the defensive quality has dropped. For some reason across the whole team, it's dropped. And we can wax lyrical about what the problems are with Liverpool, but they are many. And I agree that, look, Newcastle had 10 men at the weekend. They could have got 2 goals. Liverpool aren't playing that well, and that's why they're having a very, very bad season. And we spoke about it last night. They need it's the end of an era. They need a major rebuild. But some of those players need to be, stand up and counted now. And I think, it's amazing to see. I actually wasn't aware that Virgil Van Dijk had said 2 months ago Carragher wouldn't get in our back four. And he said and now Carragher's come out and said I'd start ahead of him. I wasn't aware of this sort of thing going on, but it's never constructive and it's never useful. And if I was Klopp, and I'm not, I'd be telling Virgil van Dijk to keep his gob shut and do his talking on the pitch. A public argument with any ex-player or anybody in the media is a bad idea because it's a lack of focus. You listen to the good players and they will say that I'm my own biggest critic. I don't need to listen to the critics. I know when I'm playing well and I know when I'm playing badly, and that's what I've got to work on. I think the minute you start backbiting. I mean, look, we saw it with Ronaldo at the start of the season. He wouldn't shake Carragher's hand. Then he snubbed Gary Neville. And where is he now? He's playing in Qatar. You lose that focus, you're never getting it back. It very rarely works out to start answering the media. Saw Jurgen Klopp do it a few months ago. I'm driving back in my car and I can hear Talk Sport slagging me off. Like, just don't comment on it. The minute you start feeling that your critics are getting in your head, is the minute you're going to lose your focus. And these are professional athletes. They've got to focus on themselves and what's going on there. United had it a year ago. So many media leaks. We were terrible. This year, not happening because people are focusing on the pitch. So it is big. It is big. And as I said, I'm very interested to see what your comments are on it. What do you think about that when you've got like Carragher coming out saying, it makes me laugh. Virgil van Dijk said I wouldn't get in that back four about 2 months ago. I think I'd start ahead of him now. He also said, Joe Gomez. I mean, we've all had bad nights and maybe I shouldn't kick him when he's down, but I feel he's been terrible right now. But I think the Liverpool defenders as well can't defend. It's an absolute... And you've got to expect it. I think there'll be a lot of Liverpool fans agreeing with Carragher saying, well, look, it was embarrassing. He's absolutely 100% right to call them out. But the fact that that's happened, it's pretty big. And it has happened a couple of times with United, to be fair. When I think back about it, there has been players that have been targeted. In fairness, and look, it's sort of the same here, isn't it? It does tend to be... The media ex-players do tend to go for the foreign players. I don't know whether that's just a coincidence, but ultimately that does create an issue now, and somebody's got to back down or somebody's got to be proved wrong. And the only way it can be proved wrong is with positive results. I don't want to delve too much into Liverpool and where they go from here, because I think where they go from here is they've got to turn a corner and start playing better. But I ultimately think that probably won't happen at this stage of the season to turn it round and start playing well. I think they've shown glimpses. I still think they could get top four, but the vulnerabilities are not going to go until they can make major changes. But there is absolutely no doubt that they're falling apart. And when you're losing, I think Liverpool have had it good for the last few years. I specifically think of ex-Liverpool players on the media. They've had they've been able to talk about United, and sometimes they've been quite good because the Liverpool team is absolutely fine and everything's great for them, and it's fantastic. And now you can see that they're going through what we've been through recently, which is the club's falling apart. It is the end of an era. Things are going badly. You are getting humiliated quite regularly, and you are getting humiliated quite regularly. I mean, it was at Brighton not that long ago, was it? And the cracks are starting to appear. I'm very intrigued to see where it's going to go from here, but it cannot descend into public spats, and at the moment that's where they're at. They've hit rock bottom, and it's going to be interesting to see how they manage the way out of this, because confidence will be on the floor. Look, we've all seen it. The worst thing you can do is start chucking blame around. Any professional's got to be their own biggest critic, and they've got to start looking in the mirror. But it's a public humiliation, not only by Real Madrid, but now by the people coming out and sort of basically throwing them under the bus, probably quite rightly in many ways. But yeah, Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Very interesting. I still do think they can get top four, by the way. I still think that Newcastle have shown a vulnerability and Spurs are Spurs. So if Liverpool can somehow start scoring more goals, they're always going to concede goals this season, but they can still do it. And maybe being knocked out of the Champions League, I mean, out of the Champions League, out of all the cups, just playing Premier League games might be the focus Liverpool need. But they need a big kick up the arse and they need a big reaction. And at the moment, it's been a very public humiliation. Get your comments in below, smash the like on the video, and I'll speak to you on the next one.